welcome to Fit After 40 Women's Fitness and Health Revolution podcast. Kinsey here, menopause coaching specialist, personal trainer, and your host of this podcast. Thank you so much for coming today to this pod, taking a bit of time out of your day to show up and just kick back. Maybe take some things that you'll find helpful in the future. Maybe just shut your brain off for a second and let me talk into this mic for you. Little ASMR action. All right, team. Today we are diving in to a topic that is something that I have definitely struggled with in the past over various stages of my relationship to fitness. It's things that I've definitely seen show up for my clients over the years. We, as a country, as a world, have gone through a lot of things in the 12 years that I have been coaching. Pandemic alone, that was a pretty major thing where we were all just kind of figuring out how to be alive, period. What life looked like. We were feeling really isolated. We didn't have access to our gym, to our community. So that alone was a whole different sort of can of worms on how to approach staying in touch with our health. And then, of course, we have what's happening right now. And this is a tricky one because I always feel like I want to say something really profound. And the truth is that I just am in it with all of you, and I'm just sending out love and asking for you to be gentle with yourself and to show kindness to those around you, because it's times like this where I feel like I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the outcome is. I don't know what the solution is. I just know that I can keep showing up for my neighbors. And so that is going to be, I can show up for you guys. I can show up for my clients. Sessions have been pretty heavy. People have been coming in feeling many different ways. And it's been an honor and a privilege just to sort of create this space where they can show up, be their authentic selves, be with each other, not have to change the way they feel, not have to not talk about things. They can talk about it if they want to and just continue to show up for their body, which is really, this one is dedicated to all of my ladies in Fit After 40 because they have been continuing to show up with heartbreak. There's been tears, there've been heavy moments. It's just a lot going on, and we're all in this sort of communal sense of, just like the pandemic, figuring out in the middle of something we have no words and no tools for, how do we function? How do we show up to work? How do we show up for ourselves? How do we show up for our families? So today, I just want to offer a couple of gentle suggestions on how we can continue to show up for our health despite things being really heavy. This also is a good episode if you find yourself struggling with depression, how to show up for your health despite being in a depressive episode. Again, I speak from experience with this. I have a history of anxiety and depression in my past. I still struggle with anxiety a little bit now. I've taken a lot of steps in the last 2 decades to really sort of do some work around it, both with therapists and groups. You know, I've done a lot of holding myself accountable and just sort of figuring it out. I've been lucky enough to have a trajectory that just sort of, I in a way, my feet were up to a fire and I had no choice, and I'm grateful for it. But I definitely have been in these moments many a times. And recently you can find me lying in my shower just quietly, right? So I still get bouts. Like I said, when things are heavy, we just sort of have to change the game a little bit on how we show up, because it's not possible to show up the same way usually, right? We just don't we just don't have the energy to show up in the same way, right? Maybe we don't have the bandwidth. We probably are feeling much more distracted than normal. Same at any time if you're going through depression or anxiety, there's just so many things that it would just be easier to sort of say, not today, I'll try it again tomorrow. And then we all know that when that cycle hits, tomorrow becomes it's been months, years, and we are off that health routine. So my goal for you, as always, is never to approach this subject with shame or judgment, just with awareness and choice and information and tools. Some of these tools might be great for you. Some of them might not. Some of them might be good right now, but not tomorrow. So every day gets to be its own day We take this one day at a time. We take this one step at a time, one breath at a time. We just show up however we can and we do our best. And that kind of is like the thesis. If you wanted to TLDR, just turn it off right now. We do the best we can, one day at a time, and keeping nice to other people. But let's get a little more practical. So when I was sort of brainstorming what this would look like I said, I've been having this conversation with a lot of clients. I've been sort of like teasing through ideas on social media because that's been my way of like feeling like I can show up. I didn't just want to sort of like, I'll share things that I feel like are important to share, repeat, or rather like, share things. But I also wanted to like offer some things. And I think reminding people that they are not only allowed to continue taking care of themselves during these moments, but also it is beneficial to continue taking care of ourselves is a message that I really have found that it's something that I believe in and that I can offer that might not be as spoken about right now. So that's kind of what we're leaning into. You deserve always to be in good health, and it is not a selfish act to take care of yourself. In fact, I would argue that it is a very important, even selfless act to take care of yourself, because we cannot show up for others if we are sick, if we're unwell, if our cup isn't full, right? It is the whole, if you've ever flown on a plane and they start it with put your oxygen mask on first and then assist the people next to you, this is the same thing. Showing up for each other, being a voice of change, even just making your way through the day is hard. We need to make sure that we are filling our cup, and that is okay to take time to do so. And I think that's kind of where I've been noticing guilt pop up for my clients, of feeling guilty for like taking a moment out of their day to work out, for example. And it's been interesting to sort of challenge that, because the question then is, well, what would you be doing instead? Right? And generally it's just kind of like, especially right now, and when you are in a, like, at least when I was struggling with depression, it's not, I didn't have steps, right? I just sort of like, if I would have stayed in what I was doing, it would just be this spiral of me trying to feel like I had to figure it out, or like right now trying to feel like I had to fix something, but I don't know how to do it. And when I was feeling depressed, I didn't know how to get out of it. So instead of doing anything actionable, I would just sit there and spiral and spiral and spiral. So if the alternative to taking care of yourself is that spiral, or if taking care of yourself gives yourself energy to do the things that you can do, deliver meals, donate, show up, whatever it is, that's a worthy cause, right? So when I was putting this all together, I realized that a lot of this is very similar to when I did my Healthy Holidays episode, which was essentially like, do the best you can, be gentle with yourself, and be present with others. And these are all very much things that we can focus on right now, right? Be gentle with ourselves, do what we can. A little goes a long way, and be present with the folks around you. So let's just start with fitness, because we're here, right? So we talk a lot on this podcast about all you need per week is 2 solid strength training exercise or workouts. And I know for a lot of us that can feel like it's not enough. It is. And maybe you're already doing those 2 strength training days and you're like, but that's what I'm already doing and it still feels like too much. Pull back a little. So if you're doing 2 60-minute sessions, give yourself permission to do 2 30-minute sessions, or give yourself permission to show up to a workout and let it be a little bit different, right? Maybe we drop weight a little. Maybe we cut reps. Maybe we take longer rests. Let yourself be a little bit more flexible within your workout. We still want to make sure we're following that structured program, because again, the goal is always to build and keep muscle. But even if we're not progressive overloading every week, but we're still targeting those muscle patterns and showing up, we're going to do a pretty good job of maintaining muscle. It takes a little while to lose muscle, especially if we're still lifting weights, right? So we don't have to put ourselves into a crazy build phase right now or a crazy cut phase. In fact, I'd argue that this is a pretty good phase just to rep maintenance. So if your current routine feels like too much, it's okay to do less. It's not going to be forever. It's just for right now. And if it gets you to your workout, and if it gets you what you need from your workout, hallelujah, stick with that. Give yourself permission to just show up. A little is a lot, goes a long way. I was listening to another podcast recently and they were talking about something as simple as like 10 to 15 minutes, 1 to 2 exercises every day. Maybe that's a little extreme, but they were saying how that would be enough to continue to see goals. So again, you are allowed to mix up your workouts. I mean, silver lining, there's a chance that you find that you really love what you're doing, right? And you actually maybe stick to this new method for a little while. So just allow yourself to be gentle, do what you can, and be okay with it. And not only be okay with it, be really proud of yourself for showing up. Because right now, it is especially hard to get into the gym and under weights. And remember, lifting is a stressor. But when we're strength training versus like a circuit class or something where we're like just beating ourselves up to drip sweat, or like a cycling class or something where we're really just ratcheting up our nervous system, we do work hard when we strength train, but it isn't the same level of nervous system ratchet up, and it can actually have a lot of positive downstream benefits to mental health. So this same podcast that was mentioning, like even if you did that 10 to 15 a day, they were saying that there are studies that show that exercise, especially strength training, can actually is the best protocol for depression in terms of long-term benefits. They still said do not, like if you're on your meds, keep taking your meds, but when we're on things like medication, we have things where the dosing eventually has to change. With strength training, the only side effects are that we get healthier, right? So it's something that you can continue to find returns on, and that benefits your whole system. There are hormonal releases that make us more positive, that oxytocin, that the neurotransmitters that get released when we are strength training. And there's just this sort of, we generally feel better after we strength train. That's one of my favorite things I hear from my client is, I showed up feeling like garbage today, but I feel better. I did it and I feel better. And again, this is because we're not killing ourselves in these sessions, right? My clients aren't ending their day like dead on the mat. We might do like a little metabolic conditioning at the end where there's a little cardio pop, but the majority of it is that strength training, right? We're going for those heavier sets, rest, and the rest is really the big thing, right? We're not just going like nonstop action. So there actually can be really powerful mental health benefits that come just from lifting weights. So that could be something that just starts to move into your day and actually be beneficial if you're not already doing it. And if you're like, you know what, Kinsey, I hear you, but I'm just not in a place to start that. Just moving our bodies more can increase can make us feel better, right? So if we have a sedentary lifestyle, we're sitting a lot, we're sort of slouching forward, we're just stuck in this space all day, even just something as simple as a walk opens us up. It gets us moving. It pumps our blood through our body. It releases the oxytocin. It makes us feel better. And I've never gone on a walk and not felt better after it. It also, if you do it outside, you get that bonus effect. We're not really getting vitamin D here in Minnesota right now, but if you're in other places, you are. And even if you are in Minnesota, you're getting outside. Sometimes just a change of scenery. That, at least for me, was always the hardest when I was suffering with depression, was that I would get really isolated and in my one space, and I would just stay there. It was really hard for me to break out of that feeling and out of that space. So sometimes it's enough just to change the scenery on ourselves. So like I said, this might not be the right time to start a strength training routine if you don't have one already, but I do encourage you to find ways to move. Yoga is really beautiful because it's really breath to movement, so it can be very soothing for the nervous system in that respect. Remember, you don't have to do like wild flows with lots of balances. Think of searching for beginner yoga, and again, just really focusing on that breath to movement, soothing of the nervous system. Breath work is another really great one to explore. Sometimes I don't always find, I always love 4-7-8 breathing, where you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, you release for 8. That's that vagal nerve breathing. So the vagal nerve is the cranial nerve that travels all the way down our body. And it is something that when we can work on that breathing can really help us shift back into that parasympathetic or that rest and digest. So you breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and then blow out the mouth through a little straw for 8. So that vagal nerve breathing. Sometimes I like box breathing. I actually normally really like box breathing, but I was trying it today because I was just feeling my heart rate kind of like zip, 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 zip. And I was fine. Box breathing is where you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, you hold empty for 4. And I was doing great on all the cycles except for when I was empty of air. So when I had no air left, I was getting a little panicky. So Vagal nerve is really my go-to when I'm feeling a little bit anxious, and I invite you to do that. There's a lot of studies that show we can actually shift, like I said, into that parasympathetic state with just a few deep breaths. If you are someone who does have a lifting routine, I encourage you to show up to it. I encourage you to show up to it and then be open to adjust it as you need. Again, could be more like a deload, could be shorter sessions, but try your best to keep showing up and then being proud of yourself when you do. That is enough right now. Showing up is enough, and it's going to make you feel better long term. The next little pieces are the trick with depression, and when we're going through tricky things, is that it can really be that like negative feedback loop, right? Where we feel like crap, so we lean on these different tools. We lean on these different crutches to help get us through. And then we come back and we feel even more like crap. So what am I talking about? Good question. Things like drinking or mindlessly snacking or leaning into lots of sugar or smoking weed or all these things, right? Which in moderation, these things are a part of life. But sometimes humans have a tendency when we're feeling down to really try to like fill that pit of sadness with something external. And even if it makes us feel better for a moment when we're getting that hit of dopamine, generally when we loop back around, we feel pretty crappy. A lot of times it is blood sugar regulation. A lot of times it's inflammation. It's all this sort of just like train wreck of physiological response to these actions. And again, there is no shame. If you've been around this podcast, you know that I myself have been sober for 7 years. That is something I knew very well. And it was a tricky thing to break, but it is something that's worth just becoming aware of if we have a pattern to sort of self-soothe in a way that ends up being sabotaging down the line. Giving yourself like a cookie when you're bummed, not a big deal. If we find that we like get triggered and binge, that's something that we might want to look into because again, it hurts us down the line physiologically. Again, no shame. It is one of the most common things that I have with clients, something that I've struggled with as well. A lot of times we just need to feel comfortable bringing awareness to it and then feeling safe to talk about it with a professional or with a support group. There are pretty much for anything that has an addictive quality, because sugar has an addictive quality, nicotine, marijuana, drugs of other sorts, alcohol, they have essentially 12-step groups for everything, right? AA, NA, Nicotine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, which is good for all sorts of eating disorders. I've been to a couple of those meetings. They're lovely. I think I said Alcoholics Anonymous. They've got, so if you feel like you're struggling, Gamblers Anonymous, if you feel like you're struggling with something, it's definitely worth just finding a way to support yourself. The other nice thing is, and this kind of goes into one down the line, is surrounding yourself with support groups. One thing I love about those is that they're totally free and they're people who have gone through some version of what you're going through and have found a way to move through it without the addiction. Everyone's story is a little bit different, which is also wonderful. It's just, you're surrounded by hope and you're surrounded by people who get you. So it really, especially if you feel full of shame like I did going in, it's really lovely to be in a group where people just get it. No one's judging you. They've been there. You'll probably even laugh about certain things because sometimes we look back and we're like, that was literally insane. That my behavior was the definition of insanity. So finding support groups, and if it isn't within that kind of support group, there's lots of different groups, right? There's actual like therapy support groups where you can go and just have a small group where you chat with a therapist. Support groups could just be good friends who get it and are there for each other. My sister has been a huge support recently. She and I have formed our own little support group. She and I have been living together for the last couple months while Mark has been with his with his dad, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome. There's something so powerful about not having to bottle things, right? And to not just that, but to have conversations with people who are sharing their own experience, sharing what they've gone through, sharing how they're moving through it, and then sharing hope on the other side. It just, community is such a big piece of mental health. And one of the number one things that I feel like gets lost when we're in a place of depression. Again, at least for me, I isolated a lot. It was very hard to get out in public. So find your people, hold tight. That is going to be a huge thing that just gets us through lots of stuff, right? Community. When we talk about blue zones, I think I've probably talked about it before. We hear all this stuff about the nutrition that blue zones have, like they walk all day, they don't use chair, like the mobility they have just in their daily life, all these things. And I think we're finally starting to talk about it. But a huge, huge, huge piece about all these blue zones is that they have community. Community. It is amazing. And sense of purpose, which is another thing that kind of ties in, but I feel like is maybe a topic that's a little too large for this one. So find your community. That's another beautiful way. But just to go back, even if we're not in an addictive place, thinking about stabilizing our blood sugar can be very helpful. Always, especially in perimenopause, right? There's a lot of things when we're in the menopausal transition that are just naturally working against our blood sugar regulation. We're losing estrogen, which was helping us stay insulin sensitive. We are losing muscle if we're not working to support it. Hem strength training. We're just starting to struggle with insulin sensitivity or resistance as it is. So choosing things like protein first meals, protein first in the morning, things that can really sort of regulate our hunger and keep us full, right? Because the trick is if we're having a lot of these like dopamine hit style foods that are really like high fat, high carb, while nothing is wrong inherently, when we have those salt and sugar bombs, our body isn't getting the nutrients it needs. So it's going to be hungrier. That's why we can eat a bunch of potato chips. And then we're going to have fast crashes. So we do want to just be mindful about how we're fueling ourselves, because again, when we take care of our body, we can take care of the world around us. And also you deserve to feel good. And it is hard to have those crashes. When we feel tired, man, oh man, it's hard to get up. So really just being mindful that you're staying on top of taking care of the hunger and the blood sugar. And again, this isn't like cut everything you love. You will suffer through this. No. I'm a big fan of eating things that I love. It's just protein generally is the piece that's missing. And like I said, if we can even just lean in right now to when we make our plates, eating our protein first, it'll help us feel full longer. It'll help regulate so we're not crashing all the time. It's just a nice way to take care of our bodies. Plus, protein is really delicious. So get creative, especially at breakfast, right? A lot of times we grab for the traditional breakfast foods, the cereals, the bagels, the toasts, the pancakes, the waffles. Those are delicious, don't get me wrong, but they don't have protein, and they do lead 2 to 4 hours afterwards to a big sugar crash. So just being mindful of how we're fueling our body. Great breakfast options: Greek yogurt, eggs, meat. I like to do dinner for breakfast sometimes, so I just eat leftovers if I'm feeling particularly uninspired. Point is, think of this not as punishment ever, right? Just as nutritional support to fuel your beautiful body, yada, yada. Okay, next up. Be mindful of how much time we're spending on our phone. This one is really hard. I have never spent so much time on my phone ever since these last 5 days. I have always been someone who will like pick up my phone and then like come to and realize I'm on Instagram, but I'm not an endless scroller. Once in a while I am. Like if it's at the end of a really long day and I'm like, I'm pooped, my brain means nothing. All I see are colors. And then I just like scroll, right? But it's usually in that point, like I'm looking at puppies or a baby sheep or like a goat with a fairy wing. And it's so cute, right? It's something that like feels good. I've been doom scrolling. I've never done it before. And it feels bad. It is also really addicting because part of me is like, well, I need to stay informed or I'm being a bad citizen and neighbor. And I think that's where social media can get really tricky, because I am a believer that it's important to stay informed and know what's going on so that we can make choices in how we show up in the world. But with social media, it is a trap that we can fall into where we probably saw everything we needed to see in the new updates with the first 5 minutes we were on social media. But there's, again, that negative feedback loop that as we go, it's that spiral we talked about at the beginning where it's just like we get these hits, and it works the same way as like dopamine, where it almost is just like gets addicting to feeling bad. And it can really take us out in a big way. So just being mindful of how to stay informed without all the scrolls. Maybe you go off of social media for a while and you find another trusted news source to just check in with once or twice a day, especially if you find that you're doing this a lot at bedtime. That's where it can get really sneaky too, because then we're in bed, we're scrolling, and we go to bed and our head is full of buzzing badness. And then our cortisol's up, right? So if we go to bed and our cortisol's up, that's just going to deregulate our sleep all through the night. And it just, again, leads to that cycle of continually getting a little bit worse feeling every single day. So I don't want to say do a full-blown digital detox, but be mindful about how much time you're on your phone. I know Margarita Definition has, I don't know what it is, an app maybe that he can limit his time on Instagram. It'll be like, your 15 minutes is up, and then he can decide to keep going, or he can be like, that's my time. So that might be something to look into. Like I said, I've never really had this problem before, so I don't really know what the app is, but there's definitely tools in place so that if you want to stay on it, you can just or set a timer, right? Go on your phone, 15, 20 minutes, and then let yourself get off and not touch it again. And especially at bedtime, especially just with blue light, even if it is the cute little goat with fairy wing videos, and if you have any of those, send them to me, kinsey.does.the.fitness. If even good stuff, that blue light at bedtime, right, can really dysregulate our circadian rhythm. So thinking an hour to 2 hours before bed, just put it away. Just put it away. Put it away. Even if it's in night mode, don't go on those fast scrolls, right? Because our brain is responding every time we scroll, right? There's clip, 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 fire, 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 fire. So we're just turning our brain on and up and dialing it up. So put it away, at least right now. And honestly, in general, put it away 2 hours before bed. That's hard. That's really hard. It is really hard. And some people even go as far as to not sleep with it in their room. I am not that person because I don't have an alarm clock. So I still use it. But if you do, that could be something you consider too. But that's going to be a big one. Finding your way to get off social media right now is going to be really, really big, because nothing can bring you down faster than staying on that for minutes to hours to days, right? We can black out and come to, and we were just scrolling all Sunday. So just again, as with all of this, it starts with just being mindful and then deciding which little things that you want to sort of focus on. So the last little piece, I think probably, who knows? I'm going off of an outline today and not typed up. So you know how these episodes go. The other thing is, we talked about this with support groups, but get help. Ask for help. Ask for help. And it could be anything from maybe you're you're right. I need to get my fitness locked in. This is the time I need to commit to taking care of myself. Fit After 40, reach out. And if you don't want to do Fit After 40, reach out and I'll point you to the direction you can get. Maybe you're hey, I really need help with nutrition. Find a nutritionist that's within your network. Reach out to me. I've got a couple that I love. There's actually going to be a few that are going to be on the podcast coming up, so stay tuned. I'm very excited. This is a yay thing. We have a couple of interviews lined up for the next month or so. I have not recorded them yet, so they might not come out in January, but they will come out in February. So yay for that. I'll be letting you know so you can ask questions. But the other big one, therapy. Therapy. Oh, there's so much power in having an hour of your day. There's so much power in having an hour of your day where you can sit down with a professional whose only job is to listen to you unload and then give you tactical tools to make your brain feel less right? I love therapy. I've used it a lot in my life. I actually just reached out to a therapist last week because I was like, you know what? I got tools. I use them pretty darn well. I feel pretty good, but the world is pretty heavy and I need a little extra support right now. So I reached out to a therapist who Hannah uses and she loves her. And I'm very excited because I know from previous experiences just how beneficial that can be. Honestly, I think every single body can benefit from therapy. So definitely consider it. There is so if you're someone who feels like that's really great, I love that for you, but I can't afford that right now. Been there. There is a therapy site that does sliding scales. I think it's called Open Source. I will try to look it up and drop it in the show notes. Let me write that down. But that is great because, like I said, they work on a sliding scale. So when I lived in LA and all of my paychecks went to having a house and food for my mouth, and Potato Chip, who was a very expensive 5-pound dog, I couldn't afford doing therapy through my insurance. So I used this and it was amazing. Honestly, I found the best therapist I've ever had. And they do it based on your income. So you can pick your sliding scale and they work with you. And it's awesome. So I will try to remember to put that in the show notes. And if I don't, hit me up, kinsey.does.the.fitness, or email me, kinsey@fitafter40.info, fitafter40.info. Okay. So again, ask for help. Surround yourself with community. Don't be afraid to feel what you're feeling. That's another really big piece too. It's hard to feel these things. It's hard to sit with it. You don't have to make yourself feel better, but let yourself feel, right? Because the quickest way to, again, that spiral is to kind of ignore and just tamp down. And then the last little bit I am just going to throw in, I said that was the last one, but then I thought of one more. I thought of one more. This has been another really important one that's been showing up in my life a lot. And at first it felt really freaking guilty. And then I was like, no, wait, this is actually deeply important. And that is to continue finding gratitude for pockets of joy, right? There's this duality where like the world can be on fire. And also there are things that bring you joy to tears. So for me, those things are my family. Those things are my Fit After 40 women. Those things are these beautiful friendships that I've cultivated over the years. These things are Argo, my dog, being a total goofball. These things are Parks and Rec. That makes me laugh so hard. Sometimes I pee just a little bit. You know, these things still exist. And I think it can be easy, at least for some, I want to say a lot of us, because I feel like this is something I've talked with my clients too, to feel guilty for feeling joy when we haven't fixed things. But again, if we aren't allowing ourselves to be uplifted, it's going to be a lot harder to try to uplift and fix others or fix systems, right? Create change. So allow yourself to find joy in things. Allow yourself to laugh with friends and pets. Pets are a great way to find joy. Hug your dog, hug your cat, but then run away because they decide not to be hugged really fast, right? Give yourself permission to be on the lookout, actively looking out for things to make you happy, especially if you're in a moment where you're like, everywhere I look is bleak and it sucks. Everything sucks, right? That is totally understandable, but challenge that perspective and actively look for joy. I had a mindset coach once who he called it the red-blue test or something. I don't know, red-blue. Basically, he had everyone count all of the red things I saw in the room. So go ahead, count everything you see that's red. Did you do it? Did you count the red things? Okay. How many red things did you see? You answer whatever amount of red things. How many blue things did you see? It's hard to do this on a podcast, but I'm going to assume you didn't see any blue things. And if you did, you didn't count them, right? Because you were looking for red things. I loved this because it is such a good reminder about how much perspective affects everything. So if we are only looking for the negative, that is all we are going to see. That's one of those things with the negativity bias of the social media feedback loop, right? Is that we are just fulfilling this need for finding negativity. We're going to find it. If you open up social media right now, you'll find it. Don't worry. It's harder right now maybe to look for those positive things. And when we're in a depressed state in day-to-day life, it's very hard to find positive things. It's very easy to see how everything could be a shoe dropping, right? So it is a practice to look for the blue, to look for the joy, to look for the gratitude. That's why a lot of people find gratitude lists really helpful. Things like gratitude lists, journaling. Give yourself a way to pour out and move through what you need to move through, feel the feelings you have, and at the same time, invite yourself to still look for things that bring you joy. Sometimes it's very hard, but it goes a really long way. And a perspective shift can really change the way that we show up to just about everything. So if getting out of bed is hard, sometimes the exact thing we need is starting with that perspective shift. So that, I think, is where I'm going to leave you. Like I said, I didn't really write this one down, so I'm going to try to summarize, but my brain was braining all over the place. So let's see. We had close to what I said in the holiday health in terms of food and fitness. Do your best. If you're already in a routine, keep showing up to it. Just let it be a little bit different if you need it to. Let it be gentler. Let it be less time. Let it be less weight. If you're not showing up to a fitness routine yet, maybe start. Fit After 40 is offering $100 off this month. Reach out to me. We can set up a discovery call. And at the very least, try to move your body, right? Go on walks, shake it out. There's so much research around like shaking, like when babies rock or when animals shake with fear, that dispels negative emotions. So literally just give yourself like a shake session, dance in your kitchen, whatever you got to do, right? Just make sure you're moving and keep moving. I promise you'll feel at least a little bit lighter, if not better. In terms of nutrition, try your best to help that blood sugar regulation. Again, leaning into protein things first. That doesn't mean cut everything out. Just lean into protein first. It keeps you fuller. It helps to regulate those blood sugar crashes. Be mindful and aware of maybe any sorts of crutches we're leaning on during this time that might feel good-ish in the moment, but have negative side effects down the line, right? Those more addictive things. Again, no shame. Be aware so that if it is becoming a problem that's going to affect your life, you have that knowledge to take action if you want to. I recommend it. I've done it before. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but man, there's a freedom on the other side of it. Stop scrolling. Stop it, knock it off, stop scrolling. This is the hardest thing I'm going to tell you, and I mean it. You're probably scrolling on your phone right now while you're listening to it. Shut it down. Shut it down. Be informed, stay informed, know what's going on so that you can take action, but do not scroll. We are not taking action scrolling, right? We are just making ourselves feel like poo-poo. Support groups, community, therapy, ask for help and surround yourself with people. Talk about things, feel things, move through things, lean on each other, and have fun with each other. One of my clients from Orange Theory reached out on Saturday. She and her girls went to the protest, and then they went and they made vision boards. So they did the thing and they felt all the things, and then they went forward and did something beautiful and crafted something, right? So again, that duality, give yourself permission to hold space for both these things to be true. The world can be a dumpster fire and you can still smile, right? That doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you are alive right now. And if we're going to be living through this, we might as well also find things that bring us joy, because when we bring ourselves joy, that is how we build up our spirit to become more robust to move forward in the future. Plus, our joy can spill over onto others, and you never know. Chances are the people in your life need that joy just as much. Again, it's not in place of, it is at the same time. So really working on that perspective. All right, team. Hopefully you got something out of this. Like I said, this one was a little bit like I was on the fence about doing it. But again, I just think it's so important. And I think it's something that's sort of, like I said, all of my clients sort of came seeking permission in their own way to show up and talk about it and take care of themselves. And maybe seeking permission wasn't the right wording, but we're all just finding our footing right now. So this was just my 5.5 cents on some things to not only help you hopefully find your footing, but help you stay strong enough to land every time you step. So be gentle with yourself, be loving to others. If you need anything, as always, you have my information, Kinsey at fitafter40.info and on Instagram at kinsey.does.the.fitness. I love you all endlessly, and I will be here with you next week. Until then, take care of those beautiful bodies and brains. You're so stinking worth it. Aroo!